Hello and welcome to our return from Italy, where we
we escaped the boot.
We escaped the boot, but now
the boot boot us.
The boot booted us because now we are on the run.
Kicked us like Sicily.
Just kicked us right in the nuts.
Right in the nuts.
Right in the nuts. And now we're on the run back to the United States with 1993's The Fugitive. I am Jeff Arbuckle. As always, with me, my cohorts, my partners in crime, my travel buddies to the boot. Chuck Moore.
Hi.
How's it going, Chuck?
I'm good. I'm chafing from all this running we're doing.
Yeah. It's nipples, balls, everything.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Yeah, you gotta get that body glide.
Yeah.
Gotta work it all around in there so you get reduce that friction.
I didn't think we'd be so runny.
Right. Well, I mean, I'm runny often, but you also hear
Leaky.
Jason Oliver.
Hey, I'm here too.
How's it going?
Pretty good.
You must smell like Italian food because both my cats are staring at you.
Yeah, they are. They're really into me right now.
It's very weird.
I smell like other cats.
Yeah. Well, that's probably it.
Hi, guys.
But anyway, so yes, we are going to talk about 1993's The Fugitive, directed by Andrew Davis, who actually was kind of, for a little bit of time there, kind of like the best action director. He made what most people think are, Chuck Norris's best movie, Code of Silence.
People think that's his best movie.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. I don't talk about that one.
I don't know that I've seen Code of Silence.
And most people think that the two best Steven Seagal movies, Above the Law and Under Siege.
That's without question.
Yeah. He's well versed in action. Well versed enough that this was one of the 5 Best Picture nominees for
that's
Best Picture.
Weird to me.
I don't think it's as weird as you think it is.
I don't know. It was a big movie. Fugitive was a big movie with big stars, with good actors. Sure. But we're talking about the guy who just made Under Siege, which did make a lot of money, but it's Under Siege.
Well, he didn't get nominated for Best Director.
No,
that makes you feel better.
Yeah, which is, again, weird. I always feel like...
Well, back then, there was always 3 or 4 Best Picture nominees that would not be nominated with its director. Very rarely did those ever win.
Like, I could see a movie like The Fugitive in 1993 being nominated for Best Picture if they had the rules they have now with the expanded category. Sure. But when there's only like 4 or 5 movies that could get nominated, that to me is a weak year.
Well, so a couple of things.
And there was clearly one that was going to win anyway.
Right. There was a big whale that year.
Yeah.
You can almost say kind of the same thing. The 90s had a really weird series of years of nominations where, like, just a few years after this, it was the year that Jerry Maguire was the only studio film that was nominated.
Yeah.
And there were, it was twisting back towards the new Hollywood. However, it did. I mean, you're right. It's a big movie. It was the 3rd highest grossing movie in 1993. There was almost always a populist nominee.
Yeah.
So, Jurassic Park wasn't it that year. But there were typically the very next year, the populist movie won Best Picture with Forrest Gump. So it's that every year there was, Ghost was nominated. That was the populist pick. So, there are movies like that happen that people just, it was on their mind, and they like, hey, you know what? This is just a really good time watching a movie.
Sure. And it is.
Yeah.
Even to this day, it is.
Yeah.
But still to me, it's like you look back on it and it's kind of like, that's a bit of an eye roll. I don't think this movie would get nominated for Best Picture today.
Well, I don't know. You just said with the rules in place today, it would.
Well, I mean, for this exact movie, though.
Sure.
You could update this movie and maybe.
Yeah, I would say that this is...
But this movie feels a little like... a lot 90s.
Well, it also is. I think that there's some other stuff to take into consideration because, like, this is a movie that was 25 years after a lot of people's favorite TV show of the time. So, these are the people now voting, and and they were like, hey, this isn't a faithful adaptation of of this thing that I loved, and it was a good time and it all worked out, so I'm going to nominate it. But again, it probably benefits from one huge fish that was Schindler's List.
Yeah.
That probably sucked up most of the votes, and then everybody else was just like, well, everybody else is going to vote for Schindler's List. I'm going to vote for something that I liked personally. So
yeah, I don't know how the nomination process works. Like, I think you check off probably several, but yeah.
Well, nowadays it is a weighted system where it's like, you pick first, second, third, and then depending on the number of first place votes determines the number of nominees. Yeah. And then you vote again.
Yeah.
Back then, I think it was just you got a list and you just checked off the ones that you wanted. Or you wrote in what you wanted, or something like that. I think it's a little bit different today than it used to be. I don't know if that's for better or worse, but Chuck.
Yeah.
How do you like this movie?
I like this movie. It's I don't know. I like it. I don't have a lot to say about my feelings towards it. It's just a movie I watch and enjoy. I don't have any nostalgia for it, for sure. I watched it in the 90s, of course, and enjoyed it. I was a big fan of Harrison Ford at the time. Didn't really know Tommy Lee Jones that well, I don't think. So he was kind of a good surprise. And it's just a good movie. It's got a good narrative, moves forward at a nice pace. But I don't know if this is to Jason's point. I don't find anything super special about it. It's just a good movie.
I think it was, and I think we're looking at it 30 years on too, where it's like today it was just, it was a good movie that did really well at the box office.
With two massive stars.
One got his own movie afterwards.
I mean, they tell you how fucking massive they are too with those credits.
Oh yeah.
It's like Jones, Ford.
Right.
I guess I might have known Tommy Lee Jones. What was he popular for?
Well, he was the villain in the previous movie in Under Siege.
Okay.
And he was nominated for JFK 2 years before.
Okay, so I did know him.
Yeah. He was in like Coal Miner's Daughter, I think.
He was nominated for that too. Yeah.
I mean, he was a pretty well-known actor. But he was starting to get into like action movies.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, he was becoming a big fish very quickly. And then he was a bonkers Batman villain shortly after.
Yeah, he was.
I do recall that.
Yeah. So we've kind of already talked about it. It's like, this is based on an incredibly popular TV show. The TV show was a Quinn Martin production, which they all had kind of the same. They would tell themselves in acts. Every commercial break broke an act. And like Quinn Martin had made, did other shows that were really, really popular too, like The Invaders. That's a pretty cool show about like these aliens that come in and take the place of people. Streets of San Francisco, which was Michael Douglas and Carl Malden. Cannon, which was still around when we were, when in our lives. And then Barnaby Jones, which I also liked. But it ran for only 4 seasons, but it cranked out 120 episodes.
Yeah, there were 30 episode seasons, and they're hour-long episodes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it was appointment TV for a lot of people. I mean, hell, 20 years later, it was appointment TV for you and your dad.
Yeah, it was. My dad watched it as a kid, and then we watched it together. I want to say it re-aired like on Nick at Night or something like that.
Probably, yeah.
I've
watched it on MeTV over the last few years.
Excuse me. I don't remember exactly what it was on, but it was on. What's funny, though, is that we watched it, and it's not a show you have to really see in order. It's not a serial.
Right.
It's very much like an anthology almost, right? With the character of Kimball. And
well, you know what it's most like.
Quantum Leap?
No, it probably ripped or what probably ripped off the Fugitive was the Incredible Hulk.
yeah, and Kung Fu also.
Yeah, you're just traveling from one town to the next situation to the next situation.
And usually one of two things happened with Kimball in an
Quantum Leap
episode.
is a good comparison too.
One of two things happened. Like Kimball would put himself in peril and risk of being caught because he would go out of his way to help someone in need. Right.
He's still a doctor and he's still a good guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Which the movie covers that ground pretty well.
Yep.
And then the other usual kind of scenario would be somebody would find out who he is and use that information against him to make him do something for them.
Okay.
Right.
Which wasn't exactly covered in this, but people find out who he is.
Yeah.
And makes his life trouble.
Yeah.
In this movie.
And that's a hard one to shoehorn into an hour and a half, 2 hour movie or whatever this is, 2 hour movie. You know, because that's a whole subplot that happens. Right. They would center entire episodes around that.
Yeah, you can do a 60-minute episode on that
Yeah.
in the midst of 120 episodes.
But my dad and I would watch the show when we'd see it on, and I would always get like, I don't know, just had these visions of the one-armed man because he wasn't really very well developed in the show, but he was kind of like the specter that was always talked about, right? But it wasn't until the movie came out that I got to see the final episode because CBS, I think, is who owned the property.
I think it was ABC actually.
It might have been ABC, but whichever network was affiliated with the property, the property showed the first episode and the last two-parter episode.
It was probably right around that time they released it on what?
The two-parter.
Oh gosh! No. It was probably right around that time they released it on VHS.
Could have been, yeah. But they released it in anticipation of the movie, and I got to see the final two episodes. And what's interesting is the final season is in color. So the first three seasons were in black and white. The final season was in color, and I don't know that I'd even seen one color episode until I saw the finale. The two-parter finale, and it was like, yeah, I mean, and they do a lot of homage to the finale in the movie as well, with some of the location stuff that they do. But but anyway, we'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But speaking of the so it did win the Emmy for Outstanding Drama in 1966. So it was, I mean, it was legitimate. Like,
and the actor who played the fugitive,
David Jansen,
he won. Best Actor, Emmy for Best Actor once, and was nominated 3 times, I think. Yeah, of the 4 years.
Yeah, and that is one thing. We'll talk about this more in the movie. The characters are heightened in the movie, which makes sense because you got to squash it.
Yeah,
you got to squash 120
Everything
hours.
is heightened in this movie,
right? And it has to be. I mean, you can't make a movie out of this story without it really moving along. You know, it's got to keep the pace up. And this is, I kind of think of this almost like the real big hit that Harrison Ford had, where he started to act crazy a little bit, where he's a little bit more frenetic.
Yeah, a little bit.
Because in the late 80s, early 90s, he was starting to get into this kind of mode that he's like perfecting in this movie. Then, of course, it's, you know, just a few years later, it's get off my plane.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he's starting to like take his cues from Tommy Lee Jones at that point.
Right.
Yeah, I honestly think his performance in this is pretty measured. It
is most of the time, except I would say the closer to the end you get, the more he is struggling to hold on.
And that in the interrogation scene, which we'll get to that. He's pretty hammy in that one.
Oh, sure.
And they even use his words later in like, I don't know what you call this when they're recalling audio, you know, that the character says later. And
when he's dreaming on the bank.
It's really funny.
Yeah.
It cracked me up. I wonder if that was a joke in Wrongfully Accused, because it should have been. I never saw Wrongfully Accused. You guys?
No. Well, maybe. I don't know.
Because that was kind of like the movie that parodied this in U.S. Marshals, right?
Oh.
The Leslie Nielsen Zucker brother movie.
Oh, yeah. I don't even remember that. Yeah.
What's the line? You find that man. Find that man.
And then the cops, who all have excellent Chicago mustache, It's like, you got to help us find that guy. If you can't help yourself, we can't help you if you can't help us.
How tall is he? How tall is he? What color are his eyes?
Yeah. Does he have a cool mustache like I do? The Bears. This movie is extremely Chicago.
It's so Chicago,
great.
Yep.
But no, but the TV show is often listed as among the greatest TV shows of all time. The One-Armed Man, I think it was in the late 90s, TV Guide ranked him 5th all-time best nasty bad guy.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. But Jason's right. It's because he's a specter over 120 episodes.
It is
for the show.
Because he was really only in, like, I don't know, maybe 24 episodes, if that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the character of Gerard was only in, like, he was in the opening of every episode of the credits.
Yeah.
But he was only in, like, 35 episodes or something like that. So, like, even Gerard was a specter too, of sorts.
I always liked that in those old TV shows like that, though, because when you got a character like that, it started to feel like there was a through line, right? And it changed the dynamic of the episode, right? Or like, oh shit, One-Armed Man's in this episode, right?
This moves it along. This is gonna.
Oh shit, there's Gerard. You know, he's
right.
It feels like you're moving in time again. Yeah.
Right. So like, as far as the final episode, the judgment, there's some really cool stuff about it. Part 1 ends on a cliffhanger. Gerard catches Kimball. He's not happy about catching him, and he's just like, you're sorry, Dr. Kimball, you're out of time. And so then it's all the second part is mostly about Kimball trying to prove his innocence again, and they eventually stumble across the One-Armed Man, and the One-Armed Man ends up being killed or dying by, like, falling off of a...
Yeah, Gerard shoots the One-Armed Man on top of, like, this tower in an amusement park.
Because he's about to kill Kimball.
And there's another character at play, Johnson, who actually witnessed the murder, but stayed quiet about it because it was an act of cowardice that he didn't intervene. Yeah. And he was like a war hero or something and didn't want to be disgraced.
Yeah. And so he's about to kill Kimball. So Gerard saves Kimball, to which Kimball's like, well, he confessed, but I guess that doesn't do me any good now because you killed him.
Right. But then
Johnson comes up and says he'll testify. And the final line of that episode is Tuesday, August 29th, the day the running stopped. Which was the date that it premiered. One of the coolest things ever was the finale didn't play with the rest of the season. They reran the season through summer reruns, all so people could catch up to watch.
Super cool.
Yeah, and it's like the air dates for the finale were only a couple of weeks from the new season kicking off, and it was one of the few shows at the time that actually had a conclusion. It ended with whatever the goal was, and that's not even that common today. No. To be honest with you, it's only the popular shows get their own conclusion. Most of the time, series are canceled on cliffhangers.
It's also interesting to note, because this is much different than the movie, is the plot to kill Richard Kimball's wife is pretty innocuous. He was just a burglar. Yeah. And
that's what I figured. There wasn't any of that back.
No. Yeah, and right. He's like, why did you kill her? It's like, because she scratched my face or something like that. Like, she fought back.
Right.
You know, so there wasn't really this kind of the conspiracy or anything like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now the finale, or the second part, was for 16 years the highest watched TV program in the history of television.
It beat out the Beatles on Ed Sullivan Show.
Yeah. I mean, so like almost like 46 or 47% of people who owned a TV watched it. That's insane.
That is insane.
Now, of course, MASH's numbers 16 years later are even more insane, but because like almost 63% or something watched that, or that's crazy. It's also crazy that MASH was twice as long as the Korean War in which it was set.
That is crazy.
Yeah. But no, so this was a popular thing.
Well, the finale didn't get bested by a TV show until
MASH.
well, no, it was the Who Shot JR episode.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay.
Like for actual number of
the
viewers.
finale. I'm sorry, the finale, the series or the ratings for a series finale.
Oh, sure.
Well, that was.
But yeah, the Who
MASH,
Shot JR episode was the first episode to get more viewers than the finale of.
Other than that, it was the Super Bowl.
And then I think the only other program that beat it, as far as to air on television, was the episode 7 or 8 of the miniseries Roots.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and I also think there were a lot of other like special events. Like, of course, the Super Bowl by the late 70s was the number one.
Yeah,
program.
Roots was 77,
Right.
and I'm sure the Super Bowl started setting records after that. Yeah,
And I even think stuff like the wedding of Charles and Diana would have were big, and of course her funeral later was even bigger. But yeah, so this was pretty big stuff, and so the guy who created the show ended up producing this movie too. So like he brought this, and Warner Brothers decided that they weren't going to mess around. They were going to get one of the biggest stars of all time in Harrison Ford to play it. And so that pretty much sets the stage for this movie to, as long as it was even halfway decent, it was going to be a huge box office draw.
yeah.
So so who wants to talk a little bit about this movie?
Well, I will also mention that it's co-written by David Tuowi.
Oh yeah, we've talked about him before.
We have. For those who don't know, David Tuowi is kind of responsible for the Pitch Black movies.
Yeah. And Pitch Black itself is pretty good stuff.
We talked about David Tuowi very early in the podcast with Warlock.
Yeah.
Critters 2. The best Critters movie.
Wrote or directed?
Wrote.
Did he ever direct anything? He was only a writer.
I don't know that he ever directed anything. He might. Well, did he direct Timescape? Grand Tour Disaster?
Oh, it's weird when I looked at him.
He did. He directed Timescape. Man, I love this movie. We're going to do this one of these fucking days. The Grand Tour Disasters in Time. Oh, man. So good. He wrote and directed that. Anyway, he wrote this. He's kind of a hot writer for a while. I don't know that he really does a lot anymore. I think he wrote Waterworld also.
Did he? Yeah.
But anyway, the movie starts fast. And
it
doesn't stop.
It does not.
I mean, he basically is like, his wife is murdered. He's interrogated for the crime, and he's sentenced to death all before the credits finish.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but you were right. They used that's the same thing that they did in the trailer, which is the way that they present the names, the Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones, and it's done to this insanely intense score.
Yeah.
Boom, 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 boom. And it's loud too.
Yeah.
By the way, that's this movie did get nominated to 7 Oscars, and the score was one of them. And it's a pretty good score. And I mean, it just from minute one of the movie, it is on you. And then, yeah, but yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, anybody who has any kind of empathy would stop and see that a lot of the evidence is circumstantial. But it doesn't matter.
Well, the big
at all.
the big
we got to
evidence,
get the movie going.
The big evidence against him is, I think his wife hears him coming up the stairs, and she starts to say his name
on the 911
the 911 call, and then she says, Richard, he's trying to kill me.
Yeah, he's trying to kill me.
Yeah, and that obviously that recording is damning enough. Like the voice of the dead confirming his guilt.
But it does also take a quite a measure of saying that she wouldn't think of her husband in her last moments of life too.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so there is there, and that is a little bit of a through line where the law enforcement is very uncaring in this movie.
No, they just want to close the case.
Right. The Chicago cops, they are adamant that this guy is scum, with very little evidence that he's scum.
And very little motive.
Very little motive outside of money.
Right.
Because she was rich.
But even Tommy Lee Jones later is like, what is he money for? He's a doctor.
Right. Tommy Lee Jones he is presented in the same light, but he's the one who actually has an arc in this movie. Because he goes from being, my job is to catch this guy. I don't give a shit what he did or didn't do.
Right. It's not his job to prove him guilty or interested.
But the more he is chasing him, he has to think about the case and think about why this guy is running. And by the end, he has reinvestigated the entire crime and realizes that there's missing stuff here.
Well, yeah, even Cosmo keeps saying, like, why would a guilty guy be in the hospital? Like, why would he come back here? There's all sorts of reasons
there is no point for a guilty person to do.
Right. And Kimball, obviously, they don't make a big deal out of this, and we haven't quite gotten there yet. But if Kimball was guilty, he would have shot the U.S. Marshal when he had the chance.
Exactly.
So, but they don't make a big deal out of that in this movie. Like, there should be some reflection maybe on Tommy Lee Jones's part, but there's none.
Well, I think a lot of that happens in some of those scenes towards the end of the second act, where he's sitting around with his team and they're kind of going over everything again. And he is quietly, you can see the gears turning.
Yeah, I'm sure he's thinking of it when he's in the one-armed man's apartment where he's thinking about it, I'm sure.
That is where I think he finally starts to break through. Yeah. Because before that, I mean, Tommy Jones is like shooting to kill when he's escaping the hospital, you know?
He is playing a U.S. Marshal like
Wyatt Earp.
Well, like Wyatt Earp, yeah, exactly.
Which is a funny joke.
It is a funny joke because they refer to him as that, yeah. So, yeah, he is basically he is railroaded literally at one point in this movie, but figuratively by the justice system to be put away as quickly as possible. All of his friends don't think he did it.
Right.
In fact, one knows he didn't do it. We'll get there. We'll get there. But so now he's being transferred to I assume Joliet, because isn't that where the federal prison is in Illinois?
No idea.
But yeah, he is going to die by lethal injection, and he's going to be transported to death row with other death row inmates. And they have concocted a plan to make it look like one of the guys is having a seizure or something, and he starts foaming at the mouth, which causes one of the prison guards is like, fuck it, we're almost to the place, let him be, when the guy just said we're about 40 minutes away. So even the prison guards are absent of any kind of emotion or sympathy for these people. And but his partner is like, nah, man, he doesn't look good, we can't let him die here. So he opens the little gate, which of course was the whole plan to begin with. The guy who's foaming at the mouth attacks the cop,
pulls a toothbrush out of his sock that's been sawed down.
Yeah, he shivs him, and he gets fucking murderlated instantly. It's like, wow, did anybody think that might? Did he stop and thinks like, wait a minute, if I'm the guy who is going to do this, won't I be like fucking immediately shot?
Right.
Because he is immediately
Well,
shot.
they're all probably on death row. They're all going to die anyway. It's worth a shot. And yeah.
Well, it is worth a shot.
Yeah. That's where that phrase came from, this movie.
Exactly. Yeah. But the struggle...
Not even a smirk from Jason on that one. He's so...
he's looking up David Tuowi.
I'm looking up the scores of James Newton Howard.
Sorry. Oh, okay. So the scene that everybody remembers from this movie is now. the struggle causes the bus to roll off of a cliff, essentially, and onto a train track. To which the cop, or the cop who blew away the other prisoner, was like, "Hey, my partner is bleeding to death. Kimball, you're a doctor. Help him.
Throw me the keys.
Throw me the keys." He unchains himself from his seat, but drops the keys. To which the Copeland, the real bad guy, is not the real bad guy to the story, but the real bad guy on the bus, frees himself and just gets out of there. Well, he's starting.
Because Kimball's saying, "Somebody help me get him off the bus."
Well, because he sees the train.
The train's coming,
and the one guard, he just jumps out.
Yeah, he's like, "Fuck you!" I'm out.
He's like, "Screw this."
Yeah, it's like, I'm out of here.
I'm leaving you and my buddy
and my partner. To which that kind of comes back later. That's pretty funny because it's like he's totally trying to take credit for all of this that's about to happen. But so Copeland takes off. So that basically leaves Kimball to try to alone save this cop by throwing him out of the bus and getting off the train tracks, which he barely does. And of course the train hits, then the train derails itself, or some of the cars derail itself. And then that follows Kimball along the track for a little bit until he can find a place so he can
jumps
jump
into a little ditch.
Yep.
and hangs out behind the foundation of the track, basically,
Right.
while the train's going over his head.
Right, exactly.
And that's a little bit of a callback to the TV show, because it was a train transport that derailed instead of a bus
That got him
but they
free.
But they put the train in the scene. Yeah.
But
The movie.
that's a great fucking scene.
Yeah, it is.
It looks pretty good.
And it is not that much CGI at all.
I was gonna say, you said the scene that everybody remembers. I would argue it's another scene, but
Oh, I know which one. Well, the line that everyone remembers, I would say.
The scene I remember is very soon at a dam.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that's the scene.
That's the scene.
And it's
right.
got the line and it's got the thing.
It's got the bad dummy. The
Yes.
bad expensive
Oh,
dummy.
that thing would have
It's-
broke its fucking neck the way it was falling.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the most expensive
anyone would've-
dummy ever in Hollywood, and it fucked up.
Yeah, it's not even feet first. It's like sideways.
Even like
That's
almost
best
like
picture quality there, though, buddy.
it definitely hit the dam,
Oh yeah, that too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
which is hilarious.
But it was just a slide at that point.
Yeah,
It was
it
just
was
like
fine.
getting in
He
a
was
water
fine. He
slide.
landed
It's
on
fine.
his butt
It's totally
and just-
fine.
Yep, yep. Yep, yep.
What dam is that? Anybody know?
I don't
It's
know.
a big ass motherfucker. That's a huge one.
What?
the don't give a.
Don't give a damn. Yeah, that's
Somebody
that's,
really should name their dam that.
I don't give a.
They don't give a.
I think so too, because it doesn't give. Like that's the whole
Right,
point,
Right, it blocks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Kimball takes off running. At this point, because this involves a prisoner transport, we have the U.S. Marshals will show up, and Tommy Lee Jones and his gang come up,
God.
and it's like, all right, I want to talk to whoever's in charge here. Of course, the bumpkin sheriffs are wanting to kind of get this off their plate, but them look as good as possible.
They
as
want to
quickly
close it
possible.
as quickly as the Chicago PD wanted to close
exactly.
the
The
murder.
U.S. Marshals team is like a collection of bulls in a china shop. They're all ridiculous in their own way. They really should have. It's amazing that they don't, because in my mind they all walk into frame like like in that widescreen shot where they're all walking side by side towards
the Suicide
camera.
Squad?
yeah, like fucking Armageddon. You're right.
Yeah.
or like Reservoir Dogs or
Yeah,
something.
totally, yeah.
They should be coming in slow motion.
It might be. It's a little ham-fisted in the movie, but it's also, I think, true to how most people think a U.S. Marshal would enter a scene, is just to completely take over everything.
Well, yeah, because they're the
So it
top
gives
cops,
that illusion,
you know?
right?
It's everything is exaggerated with the U.S. Marshals. Everything.
Yeah, and I think it's to a point, but
Yeah.
so I don't have a problem with it. Personally.
Right, it is. But you're right. They are coming in like a sledgehammer when maybe a little bit more nuance is necessary.
Yeah.
Well, Tommy Lee Jones knew this guy was lying before he even heard him
Yeah,
talk.
because
like
the-
all that.
Well,
stuff
Tommy Lee
is
Jones is the smartest cop on the planet in this.
Yes.
he is.
Well, I mean, Joey Pants is even like when I
Joey
die,
Pants.
I want
Yeah,
to come back.
Joey Pants exactly
Is his little partner?
is his protege.
yeah,
yeah,
And he's like, when I die, I want to come back just like you.
yeah. He's like he's like his little guy. He's
He's the Chihuahua.
He's his little buddy.
He's the Chihuahua to the big giant bulldog, right? You know,
But the U.S. Marshals, right? They walk up. They know the story is bullshit. But
because the one cop who escaped, who's
Bullshit.
like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. He's claiming that he saved his cop friend,
Right,
or
and that
his
everyone's
guard
dead.
friend, and that everyone else is dead because he doesn't. He does. I think he has a tad bit of sympathy for Kimball because he was going to try to save his partner.
I mean, that might be generous.
That might
honestly.
be generous, but he's not saying, I'm pretty sure Kimball's gone.
He's not saying Kimball's dead so he can get away.
Right.
He's saying Kimball's dead to cover his own ass.
Probably.
Because
Yeah.
that's the way I see it.
Because
Right.
of the line when Tommy Lee Jones says, "We're always fascinated when we find leg irons with no legs in them."
Right. Which you said it in a completely no way that you're ever going to get nominated for an Oscar. But
Yeah.
Yeah. You need to deliver that better to get nominated.
I'm definitely not.
And he needs to deliver it just like a Joe Bob Briggs to win it. Yeah. But no, so he says, right, because he shows up and talks to the sheriff and he's like, well, shit, sheriff. I sure would hate to see that happen. So I guess I'm just going to take over your investigation. And he just fucking, and like the sheriff's like, oh, and he just walks off like mad. But then
Tommy Lee Jones does lots of quick math in his head, and he's like, "Hey, he can only get 4 miles from here.
Right,
Make
so this
15-mile
is-
roadblocks." And
this
blah,
is
blah,
the
blah.
line that sold the movie for a lot of people, I'm sure, in the trailer, because it is the trailer. All right, listen up, ladies and gentlemen. Our fugitive has been on the run for 90 minutes. Average foot speed is over uneven ground, barring injuries, is 4 miles per hour. That gives us a radius of 6 miles. What I want from each and every one of you is a hard target search of every gas station, residence, warehouse, farmhouse, hen house, outhouse, and doghouse in that area. Checkpoints go up at 15 miles. Your fugitive's name is Dr. Richard Kimball. Go get him. And that's the trailer. That was the trailer to the movie.
So why did they not care about Copeland at this point?
I don't think they know that he's gone. However, that there is a really good red herring scene with
It's
Copeland.
so fucking confusing because of the way they've been operating. You
Yeah.
can call it a red herring. That part kind of irked me, but whatever.
I think that's one of those things where like a lot of critics point out that there are gaps in the script, but it didn't really matter because of the entertainment value of this movie.
That's fair too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a thinker in
No.
any respect.
You
Even
know-
the things
you
you would
know-
think about, they force feed you.
Well, there's no
The
doubt
answer.
that Kimball's clean. There's
Right.
no doubt. It's what you're doing is you're waiting for Tommy Lee Jones to realize that, which is kind of similar to the show.
Yeah.
It takes Gerard 120 episodes to come around to realize, oh yeah, no, I know you're not guilty.
One question I did have about the show, and sorry if
Yeah.
neither of you know it. How many years was he on the run in the show? Like,
Was it real for? I mean,
It might have been real time.
It might have
4
been.
years or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
and this is like months.
couple months, I think.
Yeah.
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 Because
Yeah,
it's
there's
definitely and there's definitely the scenes that predate all of the running is like a year ago, because they have to go through the trial, they have to go through all of the arraignment, all of that.
That kind of, I'd ask Steph for clarification. I'm usually pretty smart. I'm like, how did Dr. Lentz die last summer?
Yeah,
That makes no sense.
right. Right. But they make the point that he's been gone for a while because everybody's like, oh, it's good to see you again.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's at least a year.
It's
It's
at
been
least
at
a
least
year.
in last summer since he started running.
Right.
Yeah.
And this movie ends around St. Patty's Day, as we find out, because I thought my TV had a stroke.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait, the Chicago River's not green. Not that green, at least.
Why can't they just dye it blue the rest of the year, Jeff?
I don't know. That's a good question.
They ask it
hey,
in the
Chicago,
movie.
what's going on, man?
They ask it in the movie, and what Gerard's like, I don't know.
Well, Gerard asked the one black guy on this team, he was like, are you Irish?
Yeah.
Oh, they have fun.
So
They
many
do.
great
They
jokes.
do. They have fun.
When they're not catching fugitives,
They're just palling around.
no, I think they're in their own improv group at Second City or something.
Oh, surely Second City. I mean, they're based out of Chicago, right?
they're just laugh a minute. These
Yeah.
U.S. Marshals,
Some of these
just
guys are-
joking and ribbing and joshing.
U.S. improvals.
Yeah. Some of
That, you need to workshop
Yeah,
that one a
I-
little bit.
I don't have a lot of time.
Well, it's
Come up with
improv, you know.
something. Yeah. I've done
Some of
better.
these guys may have come from Upright Citizens.
Second
Brigade.
or Second
Could
City.
be.
Yeah, well, second City for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, so he the first thing that Kimball does is he goes to a hospital because he's got a wound too from the escape.
Yeah.
So he goes there to clean that up, steals some poor old man with a broken neck stuff.
I love this scene. I love.
Oh,
this
it's
scene.
good. It's a good tense.
The
scene.
nurse is kind of goofy, but I like it because he's cleaning up in the bathroom. He's eating the man's food,
Oh, he is gobbling that man's food.
and he drinks all of his water. And there's a joke made about that by the nurse.
It sure does get dry in this room.
But it makes a lot of sense. So like you think about hospital food is disgusting, but this guy is like really hungry. He's really thirsty, and he is like this is like the best meal he's ever had.
Yeah. And he's in the bathroom and he's like doing it. He hears the nurse come in. He realizes the bathroom door can't be closed if the nurse is here and the man's in the bed. So he has to open the door and he has to hide behind it while she comes in and fills up the guy's.
He's lucky she takes a right or left instead of a right, or she would have seen him.
Yeah, exactly. And but he fixes his wound. He takes the guy's clothes and he shaves because he has a beard. And that's what everybody knows him as. So he ends up taking off into a he needs to find a way out. He is leaving just as the one cop that he threw out the bus to save his life is being transported in, and of course, or
We
not
got
the
a
cop,
live
the
one
guard.
here.
The guard, yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, the guard is like, hey, he's about to say, hey,
That's him.
That's him.
Yeah.
And he puts the fucking oxygen over him. It's like, yeah, you better get him inside.
Oh, he tells him what's wrong with him too.
Yeah.
So he probably maybe he saves his life. He tells him what's wrong with him.
He definitely saved some people's lives in this movie.
For sure. Well, he's already saved his life once. He may have helped save his life again.
Right.
Yeah.
So he takes off with the ambulance, which of course then when everything gets reported that the one guy we pulled out from under the train said he saw Richard Kimball and that and that there's an ambulance that's missing. So they immediately lock onto him, which then leads to the next most famous scene, which is he gets chased into a tunnel and he figures out a way to get out through a spillway.
We got to go for.
We got to go for.
Yeah.
So they
That's
follow
a pretty
him.
cool scene when they're converging on him and they're
Right.
like, wait
It
a minute,
is. The
what?
helicopter comes down on the other side of the tunnel. It is very cool.
Yeah. So they are. So they follow him into the drain pipes for this
Damn.
dam. Yeah. It's in the tunnel that the dam creates, or that the dam operates around, and he he is able to get the jump basically on Tommy Lee Jones, which causes him to drop his gun. Kimball takes it.
Yep.
And that's when he says, I didn't kill my wife. To which Tommy Lee Jones,
I don't care.
I don't care.
That's the line that probably wins him the Oscar, honestly.
Probably. But that's, again, that's kind of not his job.
Yeah.
Right, he has to bring him in.
He has
Doesn't
to bring
matter.
him in. It doesn't matter if you killed your wife or not. Let the system figure that out. My part of the system is I got to bring you in.
Right.
But he doesn't shoot him. He takes off, not realizing that, well, Tommy Lee Jones has a second gun.
Yep.
And they find he basically corners him at the end of the pipe, which leads out into the reservoir.
Yeah.
And and so at this point, Kimball can either.
He tells him to turn around. Gerard says, turn around, get on your knees now. And he starts to get on his knees. And instead of kneeling, he decides, well, I'll take my chances. And he jumps.
Yep, he takes off and his bad dummy falls into the reservoir.
Yeah, the movie's over.
He does a Peter Pan right off the.
He does. Yep, he does. That's exactly what Tommy Lee Jones said. So he is like, well, God damn it, this guy slipped me again. We need to, basically drag the thing. And the guy's like, well, he can't have survived that jump. He's like, well, yeah, that'll make it easier for us to catch him then. Drag the river. God damn it.
He's got to be fish food by now. Will they go catch the fish that ate him?
Yep. He's like, you have generators and stuff showing up tonight.
Right.
I do like when Joey Pants says, oh, great. So we can go home now? And Tommy Lee Jones just looks at him and says, no.
I like Pants' reaction too when he jumps off. He's like, holy shit.
So basically,
this is when Harrison Ford has his, you find that man dream.
His fever dream.
Right. He ends up taking a nap on the side of the thing. And he then wakes up the next day and he decides that he needs to get back to Chicago, but he has to also check and see, okay, well, how much money did this old man have in his wallet? He buys himself some hair dye, so he can try to disguise himself a little bit more. And he ends up basically, he
runs into Nichols shortly and gets more money.
Okay. So this is the red herring. He's walking along the road and this woman finds him and picks him up. The U.S. Marshals are sitting around saying, hey, we found out that a woman picked him up. He's staying at her place. She doesn't have any family. She's kind of new to town.
Yep.
So, and he's like, all right, let's go stake it out. And, Tommy Lee Jones having to act like he's a drunk. He's walking up to
Before that, though, when they're in the police station, Tommy Lee Jones is rocking the hottest red cardigan sweater.
Oh, with jeans. With jeans. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
By the way,
the peak 90s U.S. Marshal attire right there.
Yeah. I believe, though, U.S. Marshals are not allowed to wear jeans.
Yeah.
But Tommy Lee Jones is an exception, I guess.
He probably is.
He probably is.
Because he's the smartest cop on the planet.
Right.
Yeah.
He probably calls them slacks instead, or something like that.
These are just denim slacks, bro. These are not jeans.
They're not jeans. They're denim slacks. Relax your slacks.
Oh, you got us again.
So he and his gang go up to this house that looks like it's like in Skid Row, and they bust in, and you think, they have the wrong place. Because it's like a black lady and
a black dude.
And a black dude. But who's the black dude?
Copeland.
It's Copeland. They have gotten the drop on Copeland, and he takes Tom Wood. I don't remember his character's name.
Ponytail. Let's just call him Ponytail.
It's Ponytail. We know that because we can't let the cops give him shit about that ponytail.
No, don't let
him give shit about that ponytail, Jason. Anyway, so he's taken hostage, and Tommy Lee Jones figures out where he is and shoots him at the risk of killing Ponytail.
Yeah,
he's not too happy about it.
No, he's not. And he's like, hey, man, I'm going to have permanent damage in my ear for you shooting right next to my ear.
And he's like, oh, you wanted me to bargain with him? And he's like, well, yeah, what if you killed me?
Yeah, what if you'd accidentally killed me?
And then he leans in and he's like, hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah.
This scene is so goofy.
He's like, I don't bargain.
Right. Which is,
and that kind of honestly makes me really not like Tommy Lee Jones at all at this point. Like any goodwill, you already are kind of rooting against him because you're rooting for.
Yeah, he's
Kimball,
chasing a guy you want to get away.
But man, he to me almost becomes a villain in that moment.
But at the same time, though, again, it's all to build that character again, to say he is not going to be flappable here.
Sure.
He has to be convinced on his own terms.
So when he is convinced, it means more.
It means more. By the way, I also think this is very, very, very much the place that Colin Farrell came from with Minority Report.
Oh, shit. Yeah.
Because it's the same type of idea. He's the bad guy until he isn't, until he figures it out.
Yeah.
And then he's the ally for like 3 seconds in that movie.
Or it's like Les Mis, where he's the bad guy until he realizes that he's been chasing a good man and then he just kills himself.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. That's bad.
Yeah, but
that's not great. But that's the idea.
But that's it. Yeah, I mean, they've even said that on the TV show, the characters were based on Jean Valjean and Javert.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because this is and
Les Mis, Javert is like unrelentless in his pursuit of Jean Valjean. Jean Valjean is a fugitive from the law for stealing a loaf of bread. Like,
Valjean, he also had the system stacked against him too.
Valjean just doesn't care. It's the law is the law, right? And but he's then saved. His life is saved by Jean Valjean, and he recognizes Jean Valjean as an honorable man, and that he himself is like, who is he? Right. And he's so wrought with despair, he doesn't know even how to pursue in his life at this point, because everything about him is like rocked to the core, and he kills himself.
That would have been good in this movie, I think.
Yeah, I don't see Tommy Lee Jones pulling a Peter Pan.
No. You know a version of that I like? The Liam Neeson Jeffrey
It's
Rush
very
one.
good.
Yeah,
it's very good.
That's a good one.
Yep.
Anyway, so so basically, again, this is just, but it is a red herring. It's like, oh shit, that woman that he picked up, because they even said that they recognized him, and it's like, oh no, but it was, he keeps telling the screaming black lady to shut up.
Oh, he does once for sure, like really loudly,
and it works.
And it's like, again, he's like, man, villain. This guy's a villain,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just shot this woman's presumably she knows him.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Well, I mean, they were sleeping together.
There's just like he has no emotional empathy for anything.
No.
Right. He is the law. I mean, that's it. I mean,
he's Judge Dredd.
He's Judge Dredd.
About to say that.
Maybe that's what Sylvester Stallone was pulling from.
Yeah.
For Judge Dredd.
Dude, they're all pulled from fucking
Tommy Lee Jones. At some point in his career, you can pull from something of his.
Well, I was texting you guys like every fucking CBS cop show is doing a Tommy Lee Jones. And they'll
think me up a cup of coffee and a chocolate donut with some of those sprinkles on.
While you're sitting there thinking.
David Caruso can like thank his entire career to Tommy Lee Jones.
Sure.
You should send him a Christmas card
every year. If I ever get into a movie, I'm going to pull from Tommy Lee Jones from Space Cowboys.
For Space Cowboys.
It's like, just leave me on the moon. maybe I can be in one of the Sharknado sequels. I don't know. Anyway, so basically, so now Charlie, who is played by Haroum Krabe, who is I don't want to spoil anything, but he's often a bad guy.
Yeah.
He's a bad guy in Living Daylights after playing the good guy for almost all that movie, until you find out, oh, he's a bad guy, and hangs out with Joe Don Baker, which is cool. I'd hang out with Joe Don Baker.
Yeah, you would. You have a picture of him on your wall.
I sure fucking do. And he's crazily killing somebody.
Brute force with a badge.
Yeah. But anyway, he is Charlie Nichols, which is a very American name for a very European actor. But he is, they're friends, and he's like, hey, Charlie, do you have any money on you? And he's like, well, how can I help you? And it's like, no, you can't help me, which is really smart because he doesn't want to endanger anybody else for harboring. He's like, just give me whatever you got on you. And he's able to use that to basically continue around town, but also he gets a place to kind of stay.
Stays in a Polish woman and guy's basement.
Right. And he's able to use that basically as his base of operations.
One thing about Charlie Nichols, though, we did see him briefly earlier in the movie. He was at
There was a party, a fundraiser the pharmaceutical company was sponsoring a fundraiser that Kimball's wife, who by the way is Celia Ward, we didn't mention that. She's third billing, but it's only in like 10 minutes of this movie. She was invited to it, and of course Kimball went. He hates going to these things, but everybody else at the hospital was. And so he also has talked about this drug that this company is going to be releasing is not good. It has horrific side effects.
It damages your liver.
On the liver.
Yeah.
Which is something he talks about while he's at a surgery that he comes home from.
The night his wife.
Yeah, he's coming home as she is being killed.
Yeah.
Question.
Yes.
Yeah.
If Nichols is the bad guy and he knows that Kimball has an idea about this drug and that all of this could lead back to him, why does he actually help?
I thought about this the entire movie.
So, yeah.
Other than to deceive the audience.
It's probably mostly this movie wasn't nominated for its script. It was nominated for sound, which is good.
Yeah, sound is
It
good.
should have won the sound effects editing at least, just for the train scene alone. But no, the way I looked at it and the way I kind of rationalized it was he helps him to at least put on the guise that he's got a friend, that he can know what his movements are, so that then he can.
So keep your enemies closer.
That's less the problem, though, because Kimball would have had no idea if Nichols actually blew him into the cops.
Yeah,
but I think
to me, it's like you get him caught, man.
I think Nichols was trying to keep as much off of him as possible. The more he puts himself into the investigation, the more he's looked at.
Exactly.
That's the way I see it.
Well, he doesn't do a good job.
No, he doesn't.
No, he does.
He 100% doesn't.
He also says that Kimball was smarter than everybody else, so he already realizes that, he's going to get outsmarted. I also think it's like, I want to watch what this guy does so that if I need to get rid of him, I'll know where he's at.
The whole plan is stupid anyways. To be honest with you, they should have killed Kimball.
Which was the job.
Well, then why it can't have been the job?
It was, though.
Okay, so Lentz, you're saying, and I'm getting well ahead of where we're at. You're saying Lentz had nothing to do with it?
No. Lentz needed. So, okay. So let's go ahead and move forward because let's go ahead and start moving forward because the thing is that a lot of the middle part of the movie was Kimball really kind of doing his own investigation, which doubles back down onto Gerard starting to figure out, it's like, okay, well, if he's doing these things, why is he doing these things? We need to look at all of the evidence again, even going back to the site of the murder, which is now a year ago or whatever. And he begins to kind of unravel some of that case as well. But so some of the things that Kimball does during this section is he goes back to talk to some of his friends. He makes up a fake ID so that he can basically hang around Cook County Hospital, which is where most prosthetics are made for people in the area. So he's able to get into the prosthetic place because he is starting to learn based on with his scrum with the one-armed man, what type of prosthetic he has. And basically using that, he's able to get into the records to find out who has this type of prosthetic. He knows more than Gerard, which keeps him ahead.
He narrows it down to 5. They narrow it down to 42.
Exactly. Something like that.
Yeah.
Because 42 is always the answer to everything.
Yeah.
So
we learned that last year.
We learned that last year. So So basically at this point, he is basically trying to find out who the one-armed man is. And he starts narrowing down the suspects by finding out one guy's in jail. He makes a mistake by going to the jail because there's cameras everywhere.
That's a cool scene.
It is a very good scene.
That's a tense scene.
It is an incredibly intense
scene. The whole
scene.
thing is great because that creates another chase, and Tommy Lee Jones recognizes him on the stairway.
But he
doesn't really recognize him. He senses him. I like that.
Yeah,
it feels right. When you just kind of have that intuition about something.
Well, and Joey Pants is like, he's not going to come here. He's like, why wouldn't he? He wants to find the guy he thinks killed his wife.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't he come here? Which I think is the beginning of Tommy Lee Jones realizing he's struggling now between his duty and his something's not right.
But he still fucking shoots at him.
Yeah, he's not struggling too hard because he takes multiple headshots.
That's the last moment that he is on that side. Because he goes in, he realizes, and he learning from Nichols that that the expectation is that Kimball is going to outsmart Gerard. Gerard starts using much more of that intuition, to which he just figures, I'm just going to call his name. Hey, Richard.
Yeah.
And Kimball, this is a part of the movie where he makes some mistakes. He stops and he looks up and he's like, fuck. It's like that begins this chase, to which Kimball does do one more smart thing. He like passes some cops and he's like, hey, there's a guy back there in a blue sweater. He's waving a gun around and screaming. So it holds up Tommy Lee Jones just enough.
Yeah.
Where he gets out, but he gets caught in the automatic door. And Tommy Lee Jones, this is the last, I think this is the end of his villain part.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I think he realizes I could have killed somebody.
He goes peak villain here.
Right.
Because he really, like, I don't know if it's training or instinct or whatever takes over, but he is shooting to kill.
Yeah. He tries to shoot Kimball, but of course there's a bulletproof glass door, but it's the Kimball realizes, oh fuck, this guy
wants to kill me.
And even Gerard kind of pulls back a second. It's like, I just almost shot him.
I think he has a reaction too, like when he can't shoot through the door, he's like, shit. Yeah. Like he couldn't believe it almost. Like,
and then he goes up to the door and he's like frustrated that no one can get the door open fast enough for him. Yeah.
But I don't think he is. But it's shortly after this that everything changes, where he's like, we need to figure out what's going on here.
It's when he tips him off to the one-armed man's apartment.
When he actually finds him and he's like, this guy's dirty.
Yeah. So that's the very next place that Kimball goes to, is the last guy on his...
Because now he's still hunting Kimball at that point, but he's
almost just following him.
The one-armed man.
Yeah.
Right. So this is when he goes to the last place on his list, which is the home of Frederick Sykes, and he finds some pictures, and it's the guy. It is the one-armed man, and he digs into some more pictures, and he finds out he went on a fishing trip with Dr. Lance, and he's like, why would this be? And then he starts to realize that Sykes works for the pharmaceutical company. He does the security for the pharmaceutical company that was going to put out the drug that Kimball said is bad, and that Kimball was the most
drug is bad. And he was sending his liver samples to Lentz.
Right. And he is the head guy who's saying this is not a good drug. And so he starts to realize that something here had to be put into place to get rid of Kimball, not realizing that Sykes was supposed to kill Kimball, but only Nichols knew that Kimball was in surgery.
Well, no, not quite. I think it's the opposite. So he starts to think that Lentz sent a patient into the hospital to take Richard Kimball out of his home so that he could send someone to kill his wife. This is why he thinks Lentz is the bad party here, which he's wrong about. According to you, I think Lentz, Sykes, and Nichols are all involved, but maybe it's just Nichols and Sykes. Because they said only half of his things were signed on the day that Lentz died. So maybe Lentz started to have second thoughts about everything. And
I'm beginning to think that Lentz was killed too.
He 100%
he definitely was.
But I think he was killed to cover it up.
Right. So
it's a little bit muddy though.
It is a little bit murky. But the point was to try to kill Kimball. But Sykes is there.
But Kimball at this point thinks Lentz wanted to kill his wife to scare him.
But Kimball was the target. But when Sykes was there, he just killed who was there.
Right.
Expecting to find Kimball. And maybe it was to kill them both. But he didn't do it. I mean,
but they struggled. And
Lentz 1,000% got him out of the house. And we think it's on purpose. But it's apparently not. That's the whole part I'm confused about.
Because Lentz did call him. But at one point, there was a call back to Sykes in from the car phone of
And
Richard
we know
Kimball.
who made that call.
We find out who makes that call, which
Yes.
is probably to call and say, get over there now.
Yeah, so I think Lentz, now that I think about it, probably wasn't involved necessarily.
Yeah, but what we find out is that Nichols was indeed an investor of this drug.
Yeah, he's going to be the keynote speaker at their...
And he's going to become the chief financial officer or something or whatever. So yeah, so basically what this comes down to is that Kimball was meant to be taken off of the table. He thinks it's Lentz that's doing it. He finds out from Jane Lynch that Lentz died last summer.
Right.
Now, in the meantime, right before that, he also gets, we think that he's going to get his apartment raided.
Right.
But it turns out that the cops are there for the
Polish drug dealer.
The Polish drug dealer guy.
The son of the
landlady.
Yeah.
And he gets taken on, and he is like, hey, we ran out our basement to Richard Kimball. Is that worth anything to you?
Yeah.
Basically trying to
Pleading
save
a little bit of a plea
Yeah.
deal, I guess.
And so, so he doesn't have a home anymore, but we start to see that he's making badges for himself. He's starting to do his own kind of investigation of everything. And meanwhile, Kimball is throwing Julianne Moore a little bone by trying to help her with a school bus accident. There's a little kid who's got probably more than just a broken sternum. He's got some other pulmonary or
Punctured lung.
It's like a
something.
punctured lung or something is what I thought, yeah.
And so he makes the change on the chart to make sure he gets to the right place.
Takes him to surgery.
And
Actually takes him there.
Takes him to surgery, to which then that's not where he was supposed to take the kid. So Julianne Moore is like, hey, something's wrong with you. And just takes his badge and goes to call security. The moment she turns her back, he takes off.
Yeah.
To which even Tommy Lee Jones is like, all you do is take his badge.
It's like, what am I supposed to do?
But I mean, which is fair. At the same time, you would think somebody keep eye on that guy.
And another important note, Tommy Lee Jones asks him, well, what happened with the kid? And she's like, he saved his life.
Which then makes Gerard begin to realize this guy's not the villain we think he is, or the cops think he is, which is one thing that happens over and over. Even the press starts to ask questions like, are you sure that you arrested the right
And the
guy?
cops just keep doubling down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he's like, this guy's scum.
Yeah.
And it's like,
My
this guy's
mustache
the scum.
knows it.
He
my
roots
God.
for the Packers.
Oh my
probably.
God.
Probably does.
That's the worst thing you could do in Chicago, I
Yeah.
think. But anyway, so the walls are closing in, but also
He's closing in.
he's closing in. So he purposely brings the marshals to Sykes' place by calling Tommy Lee Jones and making sure it gets traced. He doesn't hang up. He just sets the phone down and he gets himself out of there.
Beats cheeks.
He beats cheeks. Exactly. Yeah, I was planning on using that at some point here, but yeah. So Tommy Lee Jones starts realizing it's like, well, you sure you don't know who Richard Kimball? Why would he come here? Why would he call me from here?
Yeah.
And Sykes like, I don't know. Yeah.
I never met him. I don't know why he cares. His fingerprints are all over this picture. I don't know anything. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
And so Tommy Lee Jones is like, hey, why don't you set up a stakeout here?
Yeah.
This guy's up to something. We don't like him. I don't like him.
He's dirty.
He's dirty. He's only got one arm.
Yeah.
I don't like people with only one arm.
Nope.
So but shortly thereafter, he finds out that there was one call from that was received by Sykes, and it was from Kimball's car phone. He's like, whoa, now bring him in. But at this point, Sykes is going to finish the job. Basically, he's going to go and he's going to kill Kimball. Kimball finds out from his old pal in the records. We'll probably call him just Barney or something. He looked like a guy probably named Barney.
He does look like a Barney.
Yeah.
What did Chuck say? Bones?
Bones. Okay, fair enough. It's Dr. McCoy. Got my Star Trek reference in. Anyway, he's like, hey, I'm gonna take these to Jane Lynch. She's a lab person. She'll know what's up. And they discover that the samples are clean and that they came from the same liver, no less.
Yeah, good old Jane Lynch tells him that.
Yep. And she's like, so yeah, somebody is falsifying these samples. And he's like, well, who signed off on it? And
Nichols.
it was Nichols.
Lentz.
Or no, was it Lentz?
No, it
Lentz,
was
and
Nichols who
it
signed
was
off.
Lentz, and he signed off on half of them the day he died.
That's
So
it.
somebody else
Right,
falsified.
so they're falsifying
Who
it, right.
else had access?
Right.
The name is not said, but
he
it's
knows.
obvious
It's Nichols.
It's Nichols.
Well, it's obvious because Haroon Krabe is a villain and everything.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he's going to go find out, and it's like, hey, wait a minute. Nichols, we also find out, is going to be the keynote speaker at this conference because Tommy Lee Jones wants to go back and talk to Nichols. But Tommy Lee Jones now knows more than Nichols thinks he knows.
I like when Bones says to Dr. Kimball, hey, whatever happened to that thing with your wife?
And he's like, it's not over yet.
It's not over yet. Jeez, pick up a newspaper, pal.
I love that.
That's what Steph was like. He doesn't watch TV.
Maybe he doesn't have a TV.
Maybe he's just in that records room. He never
Maybe,
leaves.
yeah, he just exists only in that records
But
room.
then when the cops, the U.S. Marshals, go to talk to him, and he's like, I don't know anything about Dr. Kimball. Never seen him.
Yeah, I haven't seen Dr. Kimball.
We
We
didn't
didn't
ask
ask
if you did, dude.
He's like, well, in that case, I got to go do something.
Yeah,
I gotta go
obligations.
He leaves the room and then he just disappears. He doesn't exist anymore outside of the records room.
That's why his name is Bones, because he's actually dead.
He's actually been dead
And
for
that's when
20
Tommy Lee
years.
Jones is really proud of his work, and he says, "Don't let any of those cops make fun of your ponytail.
Right.
I'm gonna send you some cops, and don't let any of them make fun of your ponytail."
Don't let any of them give you shit about your
It's
ponytail.
like, what's that? I didn't hear you. Bad ear.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, right. Oh wait, let me move this to my good ear.
So anyway, so so they all basically all roads lead to the Hilton, where the conference is happening, that Nichols is going to be accepting his new gig. And by the way, I'm sure even when I was 16 years old, when I saw this movie in the theater, when Nichols said that this is a drug with absolutely no side effects, I was like,
like
villain.
you're a liar.
Yeah. So Kimball walks in, which causes, well, actually, before he even gets there, he gets attacked by the one-armed man. He leaves the hospital. He's going to get on the L to go to the Hilton.
Well, that's on the train, right?
This is
Because
important.
The train
This
is a
is
good
really
scene.
important. Yeah, it's a great scene, and the one-armed man kills a cop,
Right.
like a transit cop, I think, right?
They think it's Kimball that did it.
right. To which now
And Tommy Lee Jones says, "Hey, man, they think you're a cop killer. They're gonna shoot
eat
to
you
kill.
alive."
They're gonna eat you alive." Yep.
Right. Because the Chicago cops
They do
don't
not
fuck
care.
around.
Yeah.
They really do not care. If he didn't care, they really don't care.
No.
Like
Yeah.
they negative care.
They wouldn't even say, I don't care. They wouldn't even say, I don't care. They just shoot.
They
would
just shoot. Right.
Yep.
So now Tommy Lee Jones is like, oh fuck. Now we need to figure out, and it's like, wait a minute. If he was on this train, he was at this station when he was last seen, he's going to be right next to the Hilton. We got to go there. And so he and Joey Pants are they break off and they go to the ultimate
Showdown.
Now, he doesn't kill the one-armed man. He just knocks him out and handcuffs him, takes all the weapons and throws them in a mailbox. He doesn't want any of them on him. But yes, the fact is that there's a transit cop dead, and the guy on the train knew that it was Richard Kimball.
And there's conflicting witnesses.
Yeah.
the conflicting witnesses and the Chicago cops negative care.
Yes.
So basically, Tommy Lee Jones got to get to him first, because at this point, the cops are even saying, "We're taking it. Fuck off." US
This is
Marshals.
our man.
This is our man now. Get out of here.
And Tommy Lee Jones is like, shoot me or arrest us or whatever he says,
Yeah.
and just walks in.
Right. So then he goes to the hotel where the conference is happening
He is in Kimball.
in Kimball. Yeah. And we know that Gerard and Joey Pants are behind him.
Yes.
So he says, he walks in and Nichols sees that Kimball is there, and he's like, oh,
I like his loss of confidence in the scene. Is pretty. He's like, "Hey, it has no side effects," and oh shit.
And then he has a Freudian slip. He says dishonest instead of honest.
He's like, we will continue our dishonest. I mean, honest
trials.
It's a little on the nose, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, but even he's like, he's
like tugging on his collar. Yeah, it's getting hot here.
And he cha-cha-chas off the stage.
A big hook comes out.
I almost did that one instead. Yeah.
So, the curtain raises.
Kimball gets electrocuted. We see his bones.
The curtain raises, and as he's being drug off by the hooks, like Blues Traveler starts playing their song.
Oh, God.
He gets played off by Blues Traveler.
His drink explodes in his face. It's just like a black face, and his hair is all up in the air.
So, Warner Brothers Animation took over the final scene here. But no, anyway, so
I'm hunting Nichols. Sorry.
Kimball walks up and he's like,
"So we quiet, Chuck."
We're in the laundry room.
So Kimball walks in. He's like, "So you almost got away with it." And Nichols is like, "Hey, let's go talk about this off stage. Sorry, everybody. Like, this isn't fucking weird." And everybody in the place is like, "Yikes!" And so, but Gerard shows up and tells Joey Pants, like, "Get rid of all these immigrant workers that are doing the laundry here at this hotel. Get them out of here."
Actually, it's the last thing he does.
Get rid of the helicopter. Yeah.
Well, no, actually, it's the black lady who's like, "All right, everybody, don't panic. I'm waving a gun. Don't worry, though. Get out." And so Gerard and Pants go into the laundry. Laundry warehouse.
Don't forget the roof.
They are on the top of the roof first, and that's kind of like the nod to the finale,
right?
And you think I feel like that was intentionally written to make it feel like that's going to be the
place where it happens,
right? Exactly. But and that maybe the 1 hour man shows back up or something, right?
Yeah.
But no, they start shooting at Kimball on top of the roof, and they're like, "What the fuck? We have a U.S. Marshal up there."
Yeah, and Pants has to say, "Hey, we got a U.S. Marshal in the area. You probably don't want to shoot."
Right. So they calls off the helicopter, like you said, and that's when they then go into the laundry room.
They fall through. They fall through
the roof. Yeah.
And into an elevator shaft. And Nichols falls into the elevator.
That's a good looking scene too.
Yeah, it is.
It's a cool shot. And like Pants looks down and Gerard says, "Don't shoot."
Yeah.
Like, even though we have them, don't shoot. Like,
right.
That's where you know. Like,
he knows that they're not, that the, right. They can't do the thing against the guilty guy.
He's pursuing true justice now.
Yes.
Exactly.
Instead of just apprehension.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's like, "Don't shoot." And it's like, God, this guy's keep going. And he's like, "Yeah, well, don't shoot."
Yeah. Also, don't shoot.
This guy ever stopped. Yeah.
If you took the safety off the
right, you can shoot. You just take the safety. Just take the safety
right between the eyes. It's easy. It's easy.
Joey Pants turns into Rain Man and the guy from Stage Fright.
Yeah. I'm still in Italy, by the way.
Right. Yes. Right. So now they find out where the elevator is going. It's like, oh, it's the laundry room. So okay, get rid of the workers in the laundry room. We don't want them involved. Pants and I are going to go in, and we're gonna get him. But what he's really doing is he's there to give help to Kimball because he knows he has to protect Kimball now from the cops.
Right.
Yeah. But he also needs to he needs to apprehend Kimball
right, and he does not want Kimball to commit another crime,
right?
Even if it's in self-defense,
right,
or a passion crime, he can't.
And he's got to be the one to bring him in exactly because he'll get killed otherwise,
right?
Yeah.
So, this scene is really cool and it's very well shot with shadows on the walls and everything. Kimball and Nichols are kind of hiding from each other, but trying to figure out where each other are. Now you add the 2 U.S. Marshals into the fray. And, so it's a lot of like people seeing shadows walk by and like reacting to it or like following it or hiding from it or whatever. And like, this is a cavern, or like this is a huge hotel.
I don't know why there's like a suspended I-beam But Nichols makes good use of that and throws it in Joey Pants'
Pants
face.
gets faced.
Yeah. I have a
His
feeling.
pants got faced.
Yep.
Is it an I-beam or is it something where they maybe hang stuff up and send it to another part of the room?
Well, it looks like an I-beam.
It looks like it feels like it would be like what you would find at a construction
and
site.
it looks
of a
like
suspended
right,
I-beam.
exactly. It's what it looks
Probably
like.
hang really heavy bags on it.
Probably.
It could
That's
very
probably
well
what
be.
it is.
Yeah.
But it is obviously something that Nichols makes very good use of and just clocks Joey Pants right in the face with, which, by the way, his conclusion is hilarious because he's finally ready
I'm
for
going
his
on vacation.
Yeah. He's going to Italy.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Heard it was great there.
heard it was great there. Although you shit your pants at the end. So he gets Joey Pants' gun. And he pretty much has Gerard dead to rights. And Gerard the whole time is like, hey, we know what's going on. I know you're innocent.
Yeah. And Gerard hears all this.
Yep.
He's like, oh, I have a new target.
Right.
Yeah.
But before he can shoot Gerard, Harrison Ford comes out with a steel beam or some sort
He's
of...
like, I'm Dr. Richard Kimball. I'm a cop, you idiot.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't do that.
It does do that.
He's like, no, I need to make a stand now. It will never make it to the chopper.
So he basically uses it to...
Beat the shit out of
beat
Nichols.
the shit out of Nichols, at least enough to where he drops the gun and he's like face down on the ground. And Gerard comes over and he's like, all right, well, cool.
Yeah, we got him.
We got him.
But it's kind of a cool moment because Tommy Lee Gerard walks up with his gun on him still, and you're like, oh, he hasn't fully come around yet. But then he drops his gun.
Yeah. And he puts it away. Yeah.
Kicks the other gun away. They walk out.
Yeah. He still has to arrest him.
He arrests him. He takes him to the car, and then he
unshackles him.
He unshackles
and he's like,
him.
I thought you didn't care. And he's like, well, I don't.
But don't let anybody else know.
Anybody else know about this?
Yeah.
But they're friends. I mean, like they almost come across as like they're kind of smiling at each other. It's
Yeah,
like,
Steph said, oh, they're on a date.
yeah.
Weirdest date ever.
Yeah.
The Fugitive 2 buddy cops.
Well, that's what U.S. Marshals is. Right? There's no.
Well, it's everybody else except for Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
It is. It's like literally
It
the
is
whole
true.
team comes
It is
back.
the whole team, yeah. I don't remember what that movie is about at all.
I remember seeing it,
I did too.
but I don't remember. It wasn't as good as The Fugitive.
Nope.
It's a cash grab, probably,
Yeah.
mostly.
I was like, ooh, let's get Tommy Lee Jones, pay him a bunch of money to reprise that Academy Award winning character again.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it ends basically with them driving off, and they're gonna present the new, and the press is giving it to the cops,
Oh, yeah.
which is kind of great.
Yeah.
I don't even know if we end up finding out if the cops even actually like say that they made a mistake.
No, they probably killed Kimball at some point anyway.
One
Yeah,
of
it's
one
like
of
we're
those-
gonna get him.
One of those cops is Joseph Kosala, whose entire career in acting was in movies by Andrew Davis. For the most part, I think 6 of his 8 movies were Andrew Davis movies, and he is so bad, but so perfect.
Yeah.
like in many ways. And I'm reading about him now, and I just realized why. He was a former Chicago cop. And
Did he get disgraced for like accidentally sending away the wrong guy at some point and then killing him? Because these cops wanted blood.
But he feels authentic, right? But a bad actor,
Yeah.
which is exactly right.
He's authentically a bad actor.
Yeah, but he feels like, I bet you that guy's a cop in real life, or was a cop in real life, and sure enough, yeah. But
Was he one of the many Chicagoan mustaches in this movie?
Yes,
Okay,
he's the one with the glasses.
Yeah, okay.
Next to the guy you recognize and everything. It's his
Yeah.
partner. Yeah. But yeah, he was in Code of Silence. He was in Above the Law, Chain Reaction, Under Siege. He was in all of these Andrew Davis movies. Yeah, it's kind of funny.
Was he in the what's the
He was in
the Final Terror? Was he in that?
He was not in that. His first one he was in was Code of Silence. Yeah. But anyway, Yeah, he cracks me up. Every time he's in the scene, I'm just like, who is this fucking guy? Like, did they just literally like pull him off the street to act in this movie?
Yeah. But hey, sir, we're making a really big budget movie, but we kind of blew it all on Harrison Ford and a wrecked train.
We need another Chicago cop.
Yeah.
But I guess they met location scouting in Chicago on Above the Law, or no, Code of Silence.
Yeah.
Richard Raley. That's what I was trying to figure out the whole movie.
Ozarks.
Is
that him?
He's the old guard on the bus.
Oh yeah.
He's also he's the old man in Office
He's
Space.
in so many
Yes.
things. Yes.
With the jump to conclusions, Matt.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure that's
That's him.
Yep.
I was like, was trying to place him the entire movie. I'm like, that's him. He's
Yep.
the jump to conclusions guy.
100%.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Also in this movie, there are two Cusacks. Dick Cusack, who is John and Joan's dad, and Bill Cusack, which is John and Joan's brother, have bit parts in this movie.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
I mean, again, probably just like let's get some local actors. We don't have to pay too much.
Yeah.
So let's get a cop and a couple of Cusacks.
Them Cusacks.
Yeah. I love the energy of this movie.
Yeah.
It never stops. It is, it's tense. I mean, there are several chase scenes that have huge ramifications. And like Kimball barely gets out of most of them.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, he's a guy who is, he's a guy trying to find the killer of his wife, but has none of the skills to do so. And he's desperate. So it's like, yeah, he makes some mistakes from time to time. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
It's like he's so, and he also becomes so tunnel vision that he ends up at that jail to see the one guy who's not the right one-armed man. Not even thinking about the fact that there's cameras all over the place, and then he has to go through showing his ID and stuff like that. Which the lady at the front at the front of that building really fucks up her job by immediately covering his picture on his license. It doesn't even like, it's like just it's so obvious that she grabs it like that. It's like, wow, you're really bad at your job.
I like the prisoner. He's like, well, you got me here. Might as well talk about something.
Right.
It's not like they got cable TV in here.
Right.
It's like, I really wish I could, buddy.
Yeah.
But I just gotta go. Which makes it look even more suspicious,
right?
Because the officer on duty at the visitation room is like, what's this guy about?
Right.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
Yeah.
Why is he seeing somebody that the prisoner doesn't know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a misstep, but it's a logical misstep.
Well,
yeah, he's got to eliminate him somehow.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he has a choice. He doesn't feel like he has a choice. Even if it's a mistake, it's a calculated one.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's but he's constantly kind of traipsing that line of,
his only other option is to go away and be on the run forever.
Right.
And that's
Which
not
is
acceptable.
the TV show.
Yeah.
That's not acceptable to him.
Right.
In this movie, he must clear his name.
Right.
That's
Yep.
why he makes those choices.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really like this movie. I mean, what's funny is we say it's very 90s, but it probably has more to do with shaping 90s action than actually being the thing that we can say. Like, what am I trying to say here? It would be like saying 2001 is just so much like Star Trek. And it's like, well, but it's the thing that shaped science fiction later, right? It's the start of that. It's not the thing that you come back to and say, oh, it's such a rip off of Star Wars, or whatever.
Right.
It's the Fugitive probably did more to shape the 90s than the 90s shaped the Fugitive.
Well, yeah, I would agree with that.
And probably, honestly, that probably goes almost entirely to Andrew Davis because of Under Siege.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I
mean, I would say, yeah, James Cameron, Terminator 2 and
Sure.
True Lies.
But True Lies came after this.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't feel like The Fugitive or Under Siege gave us True Lies.
Well, yeah, I would say that Under Siege and The Fugitive are more like movies that Terminator 2, even though there is the stuff with the kid in it, and it's definitely being marketed to teenagers, like, I don't know, it feels like James Cameron stuff is for a younger audience. This feels like a little bit of an older audience movie.
Yeah, and honestly, it doesn't even really feel like an action movie. It feels more like a
Procedural
thriller. Yeah, more what you would get, honestly, in like most cop shows today. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like a big action movie. It has some action set pieces, but it's not like, you know, bullets flying.
It's got two
or
big
explosions or
it's got three big stunts.
Or it doesn't even really have any like car chases.
No, there's no car chases.
For a chase movie, there's no car chase.
It's all on foot.
Yeah.
And it's on foot, and there is the one ambulance chase, but that's quickly solved.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, I guess it is a chase though, because he's legit like putting people in peril.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's also at the very beginning of the chase. Yeah.
And it is contained quickly.
Right.
But yeah, I like it too. I honestly, like, again, my only quibble with this movie really is that its awards pedigree feels like it doesn't match what I watched. But yeah, I mean, I understand why people like it. I understand why I liked it when I saw it in the theater. I understand why I like it now. It's fun. It's fast. Is
it furious?
Kind of dumb.
Oh.
Well, it's not as dumb as Fast and Furious.
No. It's definitely, the characters are enjoyable, even if they're goofy sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it's probably riding a lot of, it's a Harrison Ford big, I mean, it is one of, I mean, we're getting to the end of Harrison Ford's top of the box office now, because he's about, because he had to share it with Tom Cruise for a long time, but he's about to hand it off to Tom Hanks. And so, you know, it's the, like, Air Force One was a hit, but it's, you know, it's a few years later.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's interesting too that this was like obviously at the time of the decline of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like, True Lies was probably his like last big hit, and then weirdly enough, this director directed Collateral Damage, which was really pretty big bomb for Arnold Schwarzenegger. That was kind of like the death knell of his action career. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
good job, Andrew Davis.
Yeah, way to go.
Couldn't save the declining action star.
No. Anyway. You know who else is a declining action star? Steven Seagal.
He's declining?
He is declined.
He's still declining? Or
oh, he could still go lower.
I mean,
he accepted carrots from Vladimir Putin.
I mean, honestly, like I think he peaked at Under Siege, and that was it.
I don't want to think about Steven Seagal peaking anywhere or in any situation.
I can't imagine there's a better Steven Seagal movie
than Under Siege. Not even Under Siege 2.
I mean, maybe the one where he died. Executive Decision.
Oh, Executive Decision. That's a good
movie. Yeah,
that's a good flick. That is a good flick. Yeah.
I know what else is declining.
This episode. Yeah. So, yeah, let's start to wrap things up here. Jason, where are we going to next?
We're going into some strange territory.
Am I going to hate this movie?
I don't know. Honestly, I really don't know.
You know me pretty well. Am I going to hate this or love it?
It's on the cusp. I'd say it's on the cusp.
Yeah,
you think so fall too. Either way. I hope you love it though, because it's awesome.
This is a movie that has some really interesting pedigree, which we'll talk about in the episode. Sort of, kind of based on a true story, but not. But very spiritually based on a true person.
Yeah.
It is, I think, one of the most interesting reflections on the creative process in a film that I've ever seen. and how that also kind of compare sometimes with mental illness, and how they may rely on each other sometimes.
Okay.
And that isn't necessarily a bad thing or a good thing. It's just a thing.
Right.
There's no judgment made. And the movie is Frank.
Yeah.
But what's it called? I know that it's pretty frank, but what's it called?
It's called Frank.
Oh. Who's it directed by?
Oh, God, who the fuck is the director? I can't remember.
We will talk about that next
talk
week.
about
We'll
next
talk
week.
about all that stuff next week. But apparently it's going to be a frank conversation.
Yes, it is.
Yes,
and
it
I
will.
hope you lose all those jokes here.
I promise you I won't. Anyway, especially if I fall one way off that fence.
Yeah.
Anyway, so so that's next Wednesday.
I do know that you like a lot of the people in this movie.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll figure it out. So that's going to be on filmseizure.com or all of your favorite podcast providers. You know where to go. You can also find us on YouTube.
Yeah.
So also next week on Monday, Monster Mondays, it is Under the Skin.
Ooh.
Haunting little movie.
Ooh,
there.
that's pretty highbrow
I know, right?
for a Monster
With
Monday.
Johansson?
Yeah.
Yes. Good stuff. Very good stuff. So yeah, same place, filmseizure.com. Go to podcast places, and and YouTube and stuff. So do that. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter, Instagram at Film Seizure. This Friday on my website, bmovieenema.com, begins Tinto Brass Month.
Oh, shit.
And it's going to start off a little cheeky.
It's going to get a little cheeky.
It's going to be a little cheeky.
A lot of buttholes.
Oh my God, so many buttholes this month. I cannot believe how many. There are more buttholes in these 4 movies from Tinto Brass than I see in porn. And there's so much butt stuff in these movies. It's crazy. Also, a lot of conversations between characters while a woman is just peeing.
Yeah.
Right next to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird, man. It's weird, but that's Tinto Brass. And he's definitely the guy who took his name off of Caligula.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
He is.
yeah, he is. So yeah, that's at bmovieenema.com. You can also follow that at Facebook and Twitter. So I think we better run out of here.
Yeah, let's get out of here.
Let's get out of
keep
here
running.
because I think it's just about at the end of Tommy Lee Jones's donut break with the chocolate sprinkles.
Yes.
So let's get out of here. My name is Dr. Jeff Arbuckle.
My name is Chuck.
I'm Jason. And you have been listening to Film Seizure.